What's happening, YouTube? It's Jay. Welcome to the channel. Questionable behavior. And I got a real treat for you. I do. I have the positive side of Kendrick Lamar's Superbowl halftime show. And you're going to be shocked at who it comes from. Shocked. All Caucasians. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful to listen to. And I'm going to get right to it very shortly. Before I jump into it, I want to say something to you because the racist rants from the has-been celebrities yesterday and all the negativity that surrounded them really made me think about mental wellness. And that's what the channel is about. So specifically, when we get angry, it sets off what's called our fight or flight response. And our fight or flight response is a very beautiful thing that gives our body energy and power, and it's really necessary for survival. And the best analogy I've heard is that if you're in the woods and you see a bear, well, your fight or flight gets set off and you run even faster than you ever could because of adrenaline and cortisol, which gets released naturally into our body. The point that I'm trying to make about when you get angry is that fight or flight may get set off too often, especially if you're getting angry too much or you're dealing with trauma or whatever may be going on. You don't want that thing getting set off like every day or a couple times a day because it becomes abnormal. And when it becomes abnormal, that's a problem and can cause negative health outcomes. It can cause disease. It can cause cancer. It can cause stroke, heart attack, all the things that we know stress can cause in our body. What I didn't know, and when I was taught about this, I didn't realize it could cause diseases, like cancer and asthma and things of that nature, but it's scientifically proven. So I say this to you. It is so critically important to get control of our emotions, especially our anger and disappointment and fear and all those things that cause us stress. It is critical to get those under control. I work on it every day. And I say to you, you should work on it every day. You should try and be your best that you can possibly be mentally because it has positive effects on your body. Okay, let's jump into these videos.
One of the lines that has become clear to me in Kendrick Lamar's performance last night is 40 acres and a mule. And that line is particularly potent for many Black Americans. And it happens to be a line that I remember from my education growing up in grade school in the Bronx. And I vaguely remember what it was about. It was something that was promised enslaved people. I can't remember whether I was told it was before or after emancipation, but it had to do with the Civil War. And I've since had my memory refreshed, and it was something that the federal government promised enslaved people that they would get, and it would help them get a head start. But as with many promises given to Native Americans, they didn't come through. And I never really equated 40 acres and a mule because it was not something that really ever touched my life. But in thinking about it this morning, I never really equated it with something else that was very important to American life, which was the Homestead Act. Now, if you don't recall the Homestead Act, for some reason, there's a lot of American history that really stayed with me. And the Homestead Act was an act that the federal government felt was extremely important because they wanted to populate the Midwestern part of our country, the prairie. And so they offered 160 acres free and clear to people who would farm the land, ranch the land. I guess it was really only good for farming, but they would give free and clear 160 acres to people, and they had mapped out a huge swath of prairie land. And it was white people who took that land, and that's how a lot of our Midwest cities came into being. And they didn't rescind that promise.
You know what's amazing about that 40 acres and a mule lie? Is that they gave 4 times that amount, 160 acres, to immigrants who didn't even have a hand in building this country. Okay? And guess who okayed that? The same guy who emancipated the slaves, Abraham Lincoln.
They gave 160 acres to people free and clear, and all they had to do was stake it out. And this may be apocryphal, but I seem to remember in class hearing how there was a date and they had people lining up and they set off a bell and you could just go and stake out your plot of land and it was yours and you could farm it. And that was the beginning of generational wealth for a lot of white people. A lot of these people came from Germany and Middle European countries, and they got a stake in this country. And here we have enslaved people who were brought over against their will and finally released from bondage and promised for their servitude they would be given 40 acres and a mule, and they got nothing. And they had to start from scratch.
Political meanings in Kendrick's Superbowl show that I noticed. So I'm going to urge you to go back and watch his performance while thinking about American history and politics. Consider actor Samuel L. Jackson as Uncle Sam. Who or what does this version of Uncle Sam remind you of? And has Samuel L. Jackson ever played a role like this before? Or is he representing, as some have suggested, how black artists get policed in mainstream spaces? And then you can consider the stage. If you think of the mass incarceration of black Americans, what does the movement on the dancers on the stage represent to you? And then consider the color scheme of red, white, and blue. Does it cause you to consider who can be patriotic or who the American flag belongs to? And when that flag split in half, what do you think Kendrick Lamar was saying? Consider the American workforce, too, from the 1600s through the 1800s. Who built America? And what did it mean when those dancers bent over while we heard 40 acres and a mule, which is one of the many broken promises at the end of slavery? Now, you may say, I don't want politics at my Super Sunday halftime show. And I would ask, then why do we sing the national anthem? Why do we have a military flyover? Why do we have the presentation of arms? Because it's America, and we love to have our sports and our history and our art. And what Kendrick Lamar did was just deliver a very patriotic, historical, and entertaining Super Bowl show.
Keep saying this 40 acres and a mule thing was about broken promises to black people. And yeah, but can we finally just also call it what it was? It was theft. I am loving all of the analysis of Kendrick Lamar's brilliant Super Bowl performance, and I cannot claim to know nearly enough to explain all of the nuance there. But the one thing I have kind of been picking up on is that we keep when he says 40 acres and a mule, this is bigger than the music. I keep hearing people talking about this historically like this was some altruistic thing after the Civil War that the government just didn't follow through on. And we talk about black people this way all the time. Like, oh my God, we've got to, have welfare. We've got to have these handouts for equity and fairness and to make up for historical disadvantages and all of that. But the reason black Americans have historically been poor and been disenfranchised is because we keep stealing their stuff. We started with stealing their labor. That built so much of the wealth in this country. And then after, there's like this tiny little pittance of, hey, maybe you should get some back pay from the estates of the people that were stealing from you, among other things. And then we kind of went, nah. So especially when we have Kendrick Lamar calling out things like he owns his music because he made it by himself, that's his. I think we can stand to kind of look a little bit more and go, hey, America's also theirs. It is the Black story. It is Black people building and working and white people trying to take it and successfully taking it a lot of the time. Especially with all this talk about DEI and, oh, it's undeserved, it's a handout, you're not choosing the best people. That's just such bullshit. Nothing we have talked about doing in the name of equity is some unfair gift because we feel bad. It's just paying back what's
I now understand that halftime show. Let me explain it to you real quick. Come on. All right, so it went for you. That's why they told you to turn that TV off and you listened. That's why. All right, but let me explain it. It was a political statement. It was a political statement with a diss at the end. And if you didn't know Kendrick Lamar's music or his background or anything, it still went for you. It wasn't for you. This is all from the comments section of my last post. This wasn't for you. It wasn't for me. It wasn't for you. It ain't for you, baby. That's okay. I had another guy just tell me I wasn't black enough. Now, that really hurt. But I don't know what can get more political than the first sitting living president coming to the Super Bowl. I feel like that's a big statement, right? Or maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. You know, I'm just very aware that I'm not woke enough. And evidently, what does this dumb redneck know? I'm just dumb redneck.
You know what I would say to her? I would say to her, don't even say anything like that about yourself. You are not a dumb redneck. Okay, not at all. You are woke. You're woke to the fact that, you know, it's okay for somebody to have another opinion other than the one that you share. You might not have direct experience with them, but that doesn't make their situation invalid. No, you're not dumb at all. You're brilliant. You're beautiful. You know what I'm saying? Redneck is the equivalent to nigga. She said dumb redneck. We don't say dumb nigga. Don't refer to yourself that way, young lady. You know? And trailer trash. Nah, y'all not trailer trash. Y'all just living in low income housing until you get to better, higher housing, higher income housing. That's the way to talk about that. It's about what we say, what we put in our spirit, what we put in our mind. And it's not about saying it one time. It's about saying it that way for the rest of our lives. It becomes instilled in us. It makes us better than we were, the way we should be.
But yeah, no, this wasn't for you. So just, you know, get up in the fetal position and just cry and cry because this just wasn't for you, baby.
12 years ago, Serena Williams did a dance that nearly cost her her reputation. But at the Super Bowl, it made her a legend. I know everyone is talking about Kendrick Lamar and his fantastic performance, but consider Serena and her surprise performance. It happened at the Super Bowl, and it was bigger than just dance. You see, back in 2012, Serena did a crip walk after winning Olympic gold, and the backlash was swift. Fox Sports called it immature and classless. The LA Times said it should be separated from the violence associated with that dance. She was pressured to apologize, not for disrespecting anyone, not for breaking any rules, but for celebrating herself in a way that made certain people uncomfortable. Fast forward to the Super Bowl. Same dance, same Serena, but a completely different response. Why? The space that she was in. Surrounded by Kendrick Lamar and other black artists, unapologetically owning their culture, free to be joyful, free to be in that space, free to be herself. That right there is the story. It's not just about Serena, but it's about every black woman and what they face every single day. Here's the reality. 79% of black women report feeling like they have to change their behavior at work just to make others comfortable. 54% of black women leaders say they feel pressure to adjust how they speak or even how they look. Meanwhile, studies show that workplaces with inclusive cultures are twice as likely to succeed financially. So what does this tell us? It tells us that this isn't about professionalism, it's about control. Black women are forced to shrink themselves to fit into spaces that were never built for them in the first place. And yet, when black women are given the space to just exist as they are, to celebrate, to express, to take up room, magic happens. And sometimes that magic looks like the greatest tennis player of all time doing this dance on the world's biggest stage while millions cheer. It's not just dancing. It's not just a viral moment. It's freedom. And here's the question we need to sit with. Why does that freedom only exist in certain spaces? Kendrick Lamar didn't just perform at the Super Bowl. He made a statement. His halftime show wasn't just about entertainment. It was about symbolism, storytelling, and pushing boundaries. The entire performance unfolded across 4 stages that were shaped like a PlayStation controller button. And that wasn't just a design choice. It was Lamar's way of showing his life as a video game, a journey through obstacles, survival, and resistance. While many people appreciated the artistry, others, especially some white viewers, felt confused or even uncomfortable. Some white folks watched and thought that was cool, but others dug deeper and listened to black voices breaking down the symbolism and realized just how layered the performance was. The American flag imagery, the way the dancers moved, and the subtle nods to Lamar's ongoing themes, it was all intentional. But some white folks weren't just confused, they were angry. Some were upset that there were no white performers, no white dancers, no obvious appeal to white audiences. People who usually claim they don't see color suddenly saw it everywhere. But why did it bother them? Because this performance wasn't centered on them. It wasn't for them, by them, and about them. It didn't ask their permission, seek their approval, or cater to their comfort. And that's unsettling when you're used to being in control. Seeing Samuel L. Jackson as a black Uncle Sam, watching a show that didn't need whiteness at its center, that flipped the usual power dynamic. It puts whiteness in the position of the observed, and for some, that was too much. This is the same discomfort some people felt when a black man walked into the White House. The same outrage that erupts whenever black joy exists outside of white validation. Because black joy, self-sustained, unbothered, and fully free, has always been seen as a challenge to white supremacy. But here's the thing, art doesn't have to center us for us to appreciate it. We don't have to fully understand something for it to be valuable. Curiosity and humility go a long way. And instead of reacting with fear or frustration, we can choose to learn. So today, I'm grateful for the voices that helped me see what I missed. And I'm thankful for the artists, the activists, the storytellers who challenge me to think beyond my own lens. Because last night, Kendrick Lamar didn't just put on a halftime show, but he put up a mirror. And what we saw in it, that's up to us.
That was amazing. I love this video. And because it's about us. It's not about me. It's about us. And that's what these people are about. And it's not just because they're Caucasian, but because they're good people. And there are good people in every race, as you can see. And there's many more. And there's many good people in our race that they can appreciate. We have to work together. And I know it's difficult because ignorance and fear have taken control of a lot of people's minds because they were raised that way. You have to unlearn what you have learned. You know where that comes from? Star Wars, Yoda. But it's so powerful and profound. I had to unlearn the bad behaviors, questionable behaviors I learned. and learn a new way. We're always going to be learning. The final thing I'll say is this. African Americans endured over 400 years of slavery, and then even another 150 years of being persecuted and treated poorly, and never received anything. Think about that for a moment. Not only were we enslaved, but we were tortured. And then people come on this show, whatever show they're coming on, and complain about black people? Are you serious? Do you think about what you're saying? Because you obviously are not educated to all of the facts. And that does not discount the facts, the fact that you don't know it. You have to continue to learn. You have to open your mind. Stop becoming angry and become open, become a better person. You know, you're okay with the way you are? I feel sorry for you, because that's all you'll ever be. And there's so much more out here to be. I learn from everyone. And if I can't learn something from you, I'll leave you in peace. And that's how I'm going to leave everybody today. My name is Jay. Please like, subscribe, and comment. I really want to hear what you guys feel about this. I know that the answer has got to be positive because all these people are exceptional. But please like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you soon.